Welcome to the True Crime Never Sleeps podcast. I'm your host, Larry Lease. On today's episode of Cold Case Friday, we dive into the strange death of Michelle von Emster. But before we do that, we'd like to remind you can find us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search True Crime Never Sleeps. And as always, give us a thumbs up if you like our videos. And without further ado, let's dive right in, shall we? On April 15th, 1994, on Sunset Cliff in San Diego, California, two surfers noticed what appeared to be seagulls on top of a floating pile of kelp. However, as they drew closer, they discovered that it was the body of Michelle von Emster. Michelle was found naked with only a brass bracelet on her left arm, along with 2 rings. She had a butterfly tattoo on her shoulder and long brown hair. The body was taken to San Diego lifeguard headquarters at 4 p.m. Her lack of clothing was attributed to Michelle being reported to go on naked midnight swims, which a lifeguard had seen her doing, in which a work acquaintance, Edwin Decker, supported, saying that Michelle had told him that she liked to surf naked. However, no local surfers, nor her friends, ever recalled her surfing. Robert Engel, medical examiner, reported that she had large tearing-type wounds, missing tissue, as the body was also missing its right leg from the thigh down. He also believed Michelle had not been in the water a long time, but did not mark down a cause of death. A day later, on April 16th, an autopsy was performed by Brian Blackburn, a San Diego medical examiner. He discovered that Michelle's neck had been broken, as, quote, if she'd been in a car wreck, and had broken ribs, scrapes, and bruises. Sand was also found in her mouth, throat, lungs, and stomach. He concluded that Michelle had been alive while the injuries had been inflicted and created a timeline. At 8 p.m., April 14th, Michelle had last been sighted wearing a green trench coat, and at midnight, she had likely entered the water. Blue sharks also fed on her body, although Harry Bonnell, a pathologist, stated that there was no evidence these bites occurred before her death. Glenn Wagner, a medical examiner who re-examined her body in 2008, agreed with this, saying that blue sharks scavenged her body after she died. Only 2 suspects were seriously considered, Edwin Decker and an unknown stalker. Decker was suspected because of his interaction with Michelle and behavior towards the case, and the stalker because he had been sighted by Michelle watching her. Blackburn decided that the case must have been a shark attack due to agreement from marine biologists at Scripps Institute, and Harbor Police, and it was marked as an official cause of death. It was unknown where Michelle was buried. So now we're going to dive into some of the theories around this death. Michelle von Emster died as a result of a shark attack, so they say. This theory was a general consensus and backed by Brian Blackburn, medical examiner, and marine biologist and Harbor Police. Like we previously said, the autopsy revealed that Michelle had a broken neck and ribs, along with sand in her mouth, throat, lungs, and stomach, and scrapes and bruises along her body. Lined up with this theory that a great white shark may have grabbed Michelle, bit off her leg, and forced her to the bottom of the ocean, breaking her neck and filling her mouth with sand, which she subsequently choked on and swallowed. Then she would have died from blood loss and drowning. However, Blackburn had never seen a death caused by a shark attack before, and neither had anyone who had looked at the body. The marine biologists that had agreed with him had never seen the body. This could make their consensus questionable, due to the lack of interaction with shark attack cases and the body. Ralph Collier, leading expert in Pacific Coast white shark behavior and ecology, on seeing Michelle's broken leg bone, remarked, quote, when a white shark breaks off part of a limb, the break is clean, almost like you put it on a table saw. What remained of Michelle's femur was anything but. It looked like what happens when you get a piece of bamboo and whittle it down to a point with a knife. I've looked at close to 100 photos of cases over the years, and I've never seen any bones that come to a point. He also said that it was strange for Michelle to have sand in her stomach after her leg had been severed, saying, quote, the damage would have severed her femoral artery and she would have bled to death quickly. But for her to have sand in her stomach, she had to take a big gulping breath as she made contact with the sand. He finishes with, there are too many things in this case that are not consistent with white shark behavior. Richard Rosenblatt, the chairman of Scripps Institute at the time, after being given the measurements of the injuries, said that none of them were caused by a white shark, and that if she had been bitten by one, they most likely would have found a great white shark tooth in her body, which they had not. Rosenblatt finished by saying that because Michelle's leg was missing, quote, it could only have been a white shark, and not any other type of shark. If only a white shark could have taken the leg, and it was proven unlikely that a white shark had made the attack, it was unlikely altogether that Michelle had been killed by a white shark. Another theory, Michelle von Emster died as a result of drowning. Her lack of clothes would be explained as a midnight naked swim, an injury caused by being caught in the current, where she would have been knocked against the rocks, died, and then fed upon by blue sharks. However, the temperature of the water was too cold to swim, at 59 degrees Fahrenheit, and the temperature at night being 57 degrees. A counter for this, however, is that she could have been wearing the green trench coat, and possibly nothing underneath for protection against the cold, and then had taken it off for the swim. The third theory is that Michelle von Emster died as a result of fall from Sunset Cliffs. The San Francisco medical examiner declared that her neck, rib, and pelvic injuries were consistent with those of a fall. Sunset Cliffs is known as one of the most beautiful sightseeing cliffs in San Diego, but is also known to be dangerous with reports of crumbling rocks. People have died in this spot before. However, falling off a cliff would not explain her leg injury. And then our final theory is that Michelle von Emster was murdered, generally being that somebody hurt her badly, left her to die in the ocean, and planted her purse away from her in order to make it look like an accident. Another variation is that she was drowned by this person. The neighborhood that Michelle lived in had a reputation for drugs and was known as the war zone. Michelle's purse was found about 2.5 miles away from her body, containing her keys, driver's license, makeup, pay stub, and a fanny pack with $27 in cash. It was discovered on a heavily used stretch of beach, meaning it probably wouldn't have been there long, or else someone else would have taken it. Edwin Decker may have murdered Michelle. Decker worked as a bartender next to the coffee shop that she had once worked at. He claimed that he and Michelle had drinks April 13th after flirting for weeks and had kissed in his apartment. According to his testimony, she left his apartment at 5 a.m. the next day, the day she died. Decker felt that, quote, there was a total intellectual connection. I felt that there was an emotional connection too. At least on my part. There was, and we also had a physical connection. I was so bummed when a couple of days went by and she hadn't called. I was about to give up on the idea. Decker even published a poem after finding that she had died, which read, quote, the report said there was a tattoo, a butterfly on her shoulder, which I remembered that night on my couch when I, like the shark, chewed on her lips and took off her shirt. However, Decker also teamed up with an investigator in 2008 and wrote to the San Diego Medical Examiner asking them to reevaluate Michelle's case. An unknown stalker may have murdered Michelle, who had noticed him stalking her at her previous job at a coffee shop. Michelle had turned to a different job at a stationery and office supply shop because she felt he wouldn't stalk her there. Michelle also mentioned that she did not know the man, but knew he drove a motorcycle. Her former boss, Denise Knox, recalled that the day after Michelle's death, a man came in to make copies of her autopsy report. In 2014, she told the San Diego Reader that, quote, the weird guy who wanted all those copies of her autopsy, he rode a motorcycle too. Let us know in the comments section below, what do you think happened to Michelle? Was it a murder? Was it a shark attack? Or did she fall from the cliff? Let us know. And of course, go ahead, please consider supporting the channel and help us grow. Go to buymeacoffee.com/TCNS. Your support is very much appreciated. And as always, thank you so much for watching and listening. We will see you next time.